and what made you want to come to Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, my first point of contact was Brandon Beane. I've got a pass with him 15, 16 years ago, and then got involved with Joe and more of a phone and, that kind of communication, and, kind of got going from there, and just initial conversations on kind of how things went, what was my role in Arizona, day-to-day basis, kind of what their vision was for here, and still kind of working some of those things out. But excited to come to Buffalo because it's a good organization, good quarterback, and pretty vast history on special teams.
You think about last year and everything that went into the new kickoff rules, and by the end of it, the Bills ended up with an all-pro kick returner in Ray Davis. From afar, what have you seen from him, and what's your level of excitement to get to work with him?
Yeah, and this would go with a lot of players. I'm really basing some of those opinions off of cross tape. It's not really an evaluation. We played Houston like 3 or 4 weeks after he scored against them. Obviously saw that play, great individual effort. Just haven't been able to dive kind of into those things, but a lot of production, and that comes from the returner, and it comes from the guys blocking for him.
What are some of the standards that you would try to implement to raise the floor immediately here?
The standards?
Yeah.
Well, ball security, number one. That's always what we talk about in the return game. We try to play penalty-free as much as we can. Again, I haven't watched any tape since I've been here, so it's hard for me to say, evaluation on some of the things that happened a year ago, but those two things are primary things for us. We try to be a good tackling team and really emphasize fundamentals.
You made a career out of doing this, obviously, but how difficult is it year after year after year when you're dealing with, the roster decisions that have to be made to put guys on special teams? Sure. You've survived a long time doing it.
Yeah, it's the nature of the business. It's the nature of the beast. I mean, every roster attrition is real in the NFL, whether it's through injury or just, need more of this and less of that. So decisions get made, a lot of contingency plans. You got to be ready for that, throughout the week, and you got to be ready for that on game day. And just trying to have as many answers as you can.
Kind of related to that, it sounds like there could be a good amount of turnover on this roster just as, new coaches figure out what they like. What's your role usually like in voicing, like how involved do you get of like, oh, this guy's really important to me, or what will that be like doing it with a new team maybe?
The answer is I don't know just yet. We haven't gotten into that part of it. In the past, you try to have a really good understanding of what's here, what's on your roster before you kind of start looking for certain things. I'm sure that there'll be areas of emphasis. Defense is probably going to be a little different, I would imagine. Offense with the same play caller involved, maybe not quite as different, but I don't even know contractually kind of where guys are at, free agency and stuff. So I just try to be accurate with the things that we feel like are important and the skill sets that we see on tape.
Do you want to be called Jeff or Jeffrey?
I don't have a Jeffrey on my birth certificate or anything, so it's just Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
But my grandmother used to call me Jeffrey for some reason.
What is your relationship? What has it been? Any point of contact with Joe Brady?
Still developing that. I mean, we've talked extensively. We talked this morning about a couple things, just kind of off-season type ideas, things that I've been involved in as they're putting together kind of the daily stuff or like what the objectives are for this week, for next week. This week has kind of been about getting life settled. Like we just got off of planes and trying to figure out where we're going to live and shipping stuff and like that kind of stuff. A lot of guys supposed to be here on Monday and trying to hit the ground running on that. The answer to your question is it's still ongoing, and we're still kind of getting to know each other. Just him learning my strengths and the things that I think I can help with outside of special teams. I think this is organization number 6, year 23 in the league. So I've seen a few things that if those things come up, hopefully I've got an opinion that might help.
Your experience, like you said, 23 years in the league. During COVID, you were able to be a head coach. What did you learn from that moment that helped you along the way?
That I'm 1-0 in that situation. Yeah, I mean, it was really late. I remember I'm about to walk out of the office on Friday, and Cliff came up and said he tested positive and said I'll kind of be in touch on how things are going. And I kind of handled game day, and VJ handled the meeting, Vance Joseph. So It was cool, but we had a really good offense that game or that season. The guy who was calling it for that game was Spencer Whipple, and I think my quote was something like, "You're not driving a Volkswagen, like this is a Ferrari this year, so just let it rip." But we played well that game. I can't tell you that I had anything to do with it. I was trying to control my area, but it was a fun experience.
What did you just loosely know about the organization? When you made your first comments, you said, "Hey, good organization, good quarterback." You guys were up here last year, I believe, to start the season, so you played against them.
24. Yep.
What's the outside perception of this place? Why was it an attractive job?
A ton of really good people, and not just within the organization, just within the area. I have worked with a lot of people who have been here, and I've yet to find somebody who said they didn't like living here. I mean, I'm like 30, 40 deep over the years, so I think that speaks to something. Obviously, there's been different people in charge, different head coaches, different whatever, but I think that speaks to the area, and from an organizational standpoint, like there's a lot of games that got won, and there's a change that happened. I can't compare anything from one regime to the other to the one 15 years ago or whatever, but I would say it's a pretty good perception on the outside.
You said that Brandon reached out to you. Like, what has been your relationship with Brandon since you guys were both together?
Yeah, I mean, it was basically just the initial part of when transition happens, and I was not under contract in Arizona. So you're kind of reaching out to different people who were done playing, right? Like the guys who didn't make the playoffs or whatever, and just, letting them know, hey, if you hear anything, let me know. And then the transition here happened. And so that was kind of, just the first part of stuff. And then as they get into hiring people and things like that, it kind of goes a step further, when there's an opening. I'm sorry, the second part of your question was.
Stayed in touch with Brandon over the years, just like.
Yeah, I mean, when you have people in decision-making roles around the league that I've had a couple of texts from GMs or head coaches around the league in the last 2 days on guys I worked with in Arizona. And, like, those conversations will happen with Brandon and other people throughout the years. Matt Prater, it was a guy that I obviously had familiarity with. When that came up, just kind of what's he like or whatever. Guys that they signed in free agency who have been kind of a thorn in my side at different stops, like thanks for taking that guy out of the division. There's just conversations like that. So you catch up with people at the combine and pregame. If you play against each other, that's kind of how it goes.
You've worked with a few first-year head coaches recently in particular. What advice do you give to those guys who are stepping into that role?
Be yourself. I mean, I've been around guys who changed, and I didn't know they changed because I hadn't worked for them, right? And then a couple years down the road, you see them in a different light. It's like, man, that would have really helped you, if they'd have seen that side of your personality. So, to me, that's the biggest thing.
You've been a special teams coach really your whole run. Did you fall into that? Did you embrace that in the beginning? Did you think you would always be staying with special teams? How did that work out for you?
Yeah, I've been asked that a little bit. No, it wasn't something I always aspired to be. Yes, I kind of just fell into it. A guy I worked with at the University of Arizona when I was a graduate assistant had been the special teams coach for the Giants. The guy's name was Larry McDuff, and he came to Arizona and left to become the teams coach at San Francisco. And at the time, that was kind of when special teams coaches started to have assistants. About a third of the league had them, a third of the league didn't, and a third of the league had a guy who was like defense/special teams or offense/. So he was able to bring me with him, and I know that's my best fit. I mean, from a daily work schedule, the impact you can have on the roster, it's something that it fits my brain.
I just said Reed Ferguson once told me if you can punt and catch here, you can do it anywhere pretty much in the NFL because of the weather. New stadium coming too. You've been in Arizona. How challenging is, how cool maybe is to embrace like just something different here in Buffalo with a different type of environment to coach special teams?
Yeah. Really just found out about the way the stadium's built within the last week. I mean, that wasn't something that I kind of had my eye on, so you guys probably know that more than I do. Closed dome in Arizona, and most of the times there's 12 to 13 games a year inside when you play for a team that has a dome. Usually there's another team in the division and probably a couple cross, division games. Yeah, you embrace that stuff. It certainly impacts how you call stuff, the things you work on, more of an emphasis on an outdoor game and making adjustments for indoor games than the other way around.
What's the identity you want the special teams group to have every week?
A little bit of what I said earlier. I want guys to play fast. I want us to play fundamentally sound. I want, if a guy ran 4.5 at the combine, I want him to play like that. I think at times we're all guilty of, as coaches, we try and overload players with information and it slows them down. And if you can play fast, you're usually doing the right things. Avoiding negative plays, whether it's penalties or ball security, we try and play penalty free and have 100% ball security. And if you're playing fast, you're playing with energy, and you're not hurting yourself, usually that's going to get good results.
Jeff, you said this is a role that fits you. Why do you think that? What about you makes you specifically built for this job?
I enjoy working with everybody on the football team, and everybody except for like the starting quarterback, like all the offensive linemen are on the field goal team. The whole defense is on field goal block. In addition to all the core players, sometimes the starting wideouts aren't involved in those things, but they're generally speaking going to be on the hands team somewhere in a role there. So, and the quarterback, you've got to be able to work with those guys in the situational things that I've been involved with as well. So like that part of it, I enjoy. I see things from a big picture, standpoint, how playing complementary football and what that means on fourth down. For me, when I say fourth down, I'm talking about special teams. It's kind of my catchphrase for you guys that obviously haven't been around me, but that's on a micro basis. Offensive and defensive coaches tend to spend hours in a room together. That's not necessarily, 6 guys kind of coming to an idea or whatever. I'll work with Turner West here, and we'll kind of bounce off some ideas, and I like the efficiency that my role allows me to deal with.
Different.
Kind of see the strategy shift throughout this past year with the kickoff.
I don't think there's a league-wide trend in terms of like strategy. Like you can go to each individual team and there might be some things that there's an emphasis if you studied, those things. For instance, the last game that I coached in Arizona, we played against the Rams. And early on the season, they were using what I call dirty kicks, right? And they were really good on some things, and they ended up making a kicker changed, and they shifted to banging the ball at the back, with more touchbacks. And then that player developed into more dirty kicks, and later on down the line was some things that got into some directional things. So, like, I'm using that as an example because that's the team that I, played more recently. But, the schematics change per team depending on who your returners are and who you have blocking or trying to tackle the returner. I don't think there's, as of today, and I haven't done my offseason study yet, I don't know if there's a league-wide trend in the schematic changes.
You've been with different head coaches, and I know sometimes a head coach may say to the special teams coordinator, hey, you get 4 guys to keep maybe as core special teamers. Maybe it's more or less. Mm-hmm. I know those conversations probably haven't happened yet with Joe, but is that pretty standard around the league, or have you been in situations where, hey, I just kind of am at the whim of the roster, or where you've had more say?
I've been in all those situations. Yeah, I think regardless of whether it's me, the general manager, head coach, defense coordinator, offensive coordinator, we all want guys who are really good in all areas. Position coaches like them, special teams coaches like them, coordinator likes them, head coach likes them, GM likes them. Hopefully they're young, right? So you have that guy for a long time. But it's different in different places, and it's different within different years. We were very injured in Arizona, and our roster changed every single week. And it's tough because you're hoping for some continuity, but you also understand as a teams coach, like, you better get that guy who's on the practice squad ready because he's probably playing for you here in a couple weeks, if not in a couple days.
Coach, you have an all-pro kick returner. We had collision core returner punch. You have an explosive piece right now on your roster in McCole Harmon. So what are some of the things you look for when you are evaluating a return specialist?
I'd say the first thing for the third time is ball security. But ball security, decision making, I think are things that play into any returner's role. What is their skill set? You know, are they an evasive fast guy? Are they kind of a thicker guy, more of a downhill tackle breaking guy? Can they do both? Is there a return history? You know, the guy have experience? They come from everywhere, and there's guys that return in the NFL who never did it in college. You know, the better college players probably don't play a whole lot of special teams. That's kind of the nature of the way the world works right now. You know, especially with the way that the transfer portal and all that stuff. Like, it used to be a guy's developing, so you get to see him do it maybe his freshman, sophomore year, and then junior, senior. You know, not so much, but. There's a lot of different ways you can find good players, and schematically, I think our jobs as coaches try to put them in the best situation we can.